How did the Warriors pull this game out? Do the Cavaliers need to break up their team? Who is next in line to become champion? The only question left is, say it with me, you in? Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast / live postgame show. It's the last one this season, hard to believe, Dave, but here we are. And it's an incredible thing, and I forgot to turn off the volume on this. But anyway, here we are, Dave. What's happening? What are your reactions right off the bat?
I'm shocked. I'm really happy that we got 3 competitive games. I thought the Cavs really showed – well, they showed me something I didn't realize they had, was that they could actually score with the Warriors team. Regardless of their defense, they were able to stay in these last 3 games. Well, and then obviously they blew them out in Game 4. But the series was much more competitive than I expected, and I'm of the opinion that that the Cavs could potentially win the title next year.
Oh, interesting. Okay, even though they lost in 5, and they had a couple blowouts that they lost. I know they had a blowout win as well. You have to imagine they need to add somebody, and I think here's one of the issues. And I just sort of thinking about this as we were coming to air was. So Kyrie Irving is a singular talent, as it is pretty much the Warriors' killer. I feel like when he goes off, they have the biggest chance of winning because we know what LeBron's going to do anyway. But he breaks down, right? He's broken down in pretty much every series, except for last year. He managed to get all the way through, even though I think he was beat up then too. Clearly had back issues and knee issues they were working on, and he just didn't have it down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean he had 26 points tonight. He was actually +4 for the game in 42 minutes. And, his knee issues are really, really troubling to me. This is not the first time. I'm pretty sure that left knee is arthritic. And I wonder, is this going to be an issue as his career goes? He's not getting any younger. And is this going to be a thing that's going to start to hamper him? He's already not he's vertically challenged, let's say. Like, he's a below the rim player. So maybe it doesn't hurt as much as it would, a guy who relies on athleticism a little bit more. But you got to be able to play. You got to be able to be on the court at full strength. And he had moments tonight, but yeah, he looked off.
Yeah. And also but he didn't look that off. I mean, here's the thing. He might be vertically challenged, doesn't get up in the air very high, but it doesn't seem to matter because the dude can just get the ball in amongst the trees. It really is impressive what he can do. So that is the one thing that kind of struck me. They certainly need more talent, right? Like, for them to really compete and try and win this series, they need another, singular talent. A guy like Paul George or something like that, I would imagine. For as good as J.R. Smith was shooting the ball, he is equally bad on defense. He really is. And I don't think Cavs fans necessarily want to accept that. But when you're playing against a team that moves as well as the Warriors do, you can't have continual miscommunication and continual mistakes. And it's frustrating because he's just canceling out all the greatness he had on the other end. Swear to God, I mean, he hit that 4-point play. He missed the darn free throw. But he was hitting threes like he was unconscious. That's just the perils you have. It's an imperfect team, I think, whereas the Warriors seem to have a lot less holes, and the holes that they do have are kind of covered, except for Zaza. And I feel like I mentioned to you earlier, I swear he feels like he's got money down on the Cavs sometimes. In a couple of these games, he was that bad. Can you defend his play at all tonight?
No, he was -9 in 10 minutes tonight, in a game that the Warriors wound up winning by 9. Let's see. I don't have the lineup data yet, but Draymond Green was +19 in 44 minutes. Kevin Durant +18. Let's see. David West was +16 in 11 minutes. Iguodala's +18. Zaza Pachulia, there's no reason to have him on the court at all. And if I'm the Warriors, I'm not trying to bring that guy back. He doesn't really add any value outside of, I mean, somewhat his defensive rebounding, but I mean, he's good at boxing out. But other than that, no, I just don't get why you would bother, even on the minimum deal. I don't see it.
Right. And I have a vision of JaVale McGee, like they work with him and they give him confidence and they teach him a little bit better how to play the pick and roll, and they figure out a little bit better how to defend the pick and roll with him, because I feel like they just didn't know how to do it. And I did a quick mini edit today on Twitter where we were showing a lot of the possessions where he was getting scored on. He hasn't really played that much, so it wasn't that many. There was probably, I think SportView had more, but what I could find was about 7 or 8, but he probably was only defending about 15 or 16 total. And so if they could kind of give him enough confidence, let him play through the mistakes in the regular season when it doesn't matter as much, then they could be even greater than they were this year with him playing. I think they could be. I mean, it would be night and day, because Zaza really just is that clumsy. He is that stupid sometimes when he tries these stupid holds, these old pro tricks when he doesn't need to do it, and they would get a layup anyway. It just really frustrates me for just dumb basketball. Doesn't really fit with the way the rest of the people play.
Well, and it takes the Warriors out of the things that they're trying to do. It pisses them off. You watch them and they'll go after him when he does a stupid, just, tonight, I forget, who did he grab? Kevin Love on a Draymond layup or something like that. It was just, Draymond's like, I don't need you to do that. Draymond's great at hitting the dump off. I'll tell you, the other thing about the JaVale versus Zaza thing, Bogut was an underrated lob threat. He was actually good at catching the lob. And I think that, that vertical spacing, like if you're going to start a traditional center on this team, it needs to be someone who can, you can throw them in a pick and roll and they're a lob threat. You need that vertical spacing. That helps, since you've got a non-shooter, that helps get that lineup to be more death-like than not. And so I think that that's the difference between JaVale and Zaza. So, yeah, I'm with you on JaVale being the primary starter next year. But that's stuff we get to talk about all summer.
Sure. Because let's talk a little bit about today. So I think that what ended up happening offensively for the Warriors, and probably I think that they were probably frustrated that they had to do this, was they really just turned to the Curry KD pick and roll almost exclusively, it felt like, right? They just ran it to the ground, and rightfully so. I mean, Iguodala had, I think, 5 alley-oop dunks or something crazy like that. It seemed like that. They could not stop that at all. And I feel like, the Warriors don't run pick and roll. That's not their thing. They're one of the lower teams in the league that actually does it in terms of, percentage of time. But, when push comes to shove and you got to deal with that pressure and the physicality, you just got to go with what's going to get you there. And that's what happened.
Well, for all of our haranguing about Steve Kerr not making in-game adjustments, not putting Steph and KD in pick and roll more and letting them work with the ball in their hands. So they break it out tonight, and what do you know? It works. Yep. Now this game wound up being close, and I'm going to put all of that on Zaza Pachulia. I don't think that this game is within 15 points if he doesn't play. The Cavs, were lucky to get those 10 minutes with him on the court. But what we saw tonight was Steve Kerr. I think he made a conscious decision to save that stuff, to save, going with the death lineup more, to save the Curry KD pick and roll, to save it for when they actually needed it, which, if I were them, it would have been in game 4, but, what do I know? And the other thing I noticed was that they started the fourth quarter with KD and then snuck him a rest, like you and I have been saying for the whole playoffs, basically. So, glad to know that before games, they're able to make adjustments. Now we need to see them do it during games. Right.
Well, and we also, we did not see, I don't think, any moment where they didn't have either Steph or Curry or KD on the floor at the same, one of them on the floor at any one time. And that was what you were saying, because they had Curry on the bench start the fourth quarter with KD out there, and then they snuck him out, but they had Curry out on the floor, so it worked out fine. I think you're right. Without Zaza doing his stuff, it's not the game isn't as close. But you dance with the guy that brought you there, or the woman who brought you there, and I'm sure that's what they were kind of sticking to. But either way, I think what came back to haunt the Cavaliers, as we've been harping on ad nauseum, is their transition defense just never got better. And whenever they could get a chance to run, it was over. And I think that would be an interesting breakdown too. The amount of every time they ran, like the percentage of fast breaks versus how many points they scored had to have been very high. There were just moments in those games when they just stopped fast breaking, and the Cavaliers were able to close the gap.
Yeah, there were a couple of possessions, like they were either back-to-back or within 2 or 3 possessions. Kevin Durant got a wide-open dunk on a miscommunication with LeBron and KYRIE, and then Andre Iguodala snuck behind LeBron. Again, miscommunication. No one called him out. And this is the kind of stuff that you and I pointed out all year. It is impossible to make up for bad habits just because you're deciding to try harder. Communication is all, like on defense, is all about the habits that you develop during the regular season. And hopefully the Cavs realize this after this playoff run and next year go into it thinking, hey, maybe we need to try a little bit harder and work on these things during the season rather than just, coast like they did.
Coast is a good word to use, Dave. And if you want to coast into a game or a concert event near you, then there's no question you have to use SeatGeek. So forget the Andersons. They can't get tickets to the game as easy as you can with just a few taps of your phone on the SeatGeek app. It's by far the best way to buy tickets to sporting events and concerts. It searches multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. Plus, you can see the vantage point from every seat. And they are guaranteed, so you know your seats are legit. So whether you want to watch LeBron and KYRIE, Steph or Durant, or Rose and Noah, use SeatGeek to find your tickets. Plus, you'll get $20 off your first purchase if you use my code CoachNick. That's right, I've got some serious clout over there and managed to get you a nice discount. So ignore all the other codes you hear and type in Coach Nick in the setting under promo code and get yourself in on all the live action that SeatGeek has to offer. From sporting events to concerts, comedy clubs, and the theater. SeatGeek. I agree, and I also think that, I think that there's a mindset there. You have LeBron, and you're invincible, and you want to rest and all these different things. Because again, I have a hard time picturing an NBA practice like in February, practicing transition defense, right? That you're going to wear, that's tiring. You're going to wear them out. You're going to run, but again, it's those weird things that they needed to do it. And I also think that again. You had brought it up a little bit earlier at some point a couple of weeks ago where you felt like they really did tank to avoid Washington. And I kind of really, the more I think about it, the more it kind of felt like you were right. I mean, it seems diabolical in some weird way. How could they really have pictured all that happening the way it did? But it seems like that was correct.
Yeah, I mean, and it was smart. It was smart. I mean, the only challenge they would have gotten in the East, I think, is from the Wizards. Because the Wizards really were kind of built with them in mind. I mean, they matched up really well, as we saw during the regular season. So, yeah, I think it was a great move. And again, the Cavaliers, they shocked me. They really did. I mean, I thought it was going to be a sweep, and I thought it wouldn't be close. Now, not that 5 games and 4 games is that big of a difference, but the reality is that these last 3 games – to me, were a little bit more demonstrative about the gap than the first 2. I think the first 2, that was Golden State. I mean, home, finals, at their peak, really riding high, and you can throw those out, just like I would throw out the blowout, the Cavs blowout, where they set the record for most points in a quarter, most points in a half, and most threes made, right? So throw those 3 games out, and I think these last, those 2 that you're left with, the closer games, where it's like a 8 to 10 point difference for the Warriors' favor, I think that's a little bit better. Which to me, if I'm the Cavs, that's a good thing going into next year, because I would have assumed it was a 16 to 20 point difference.
Okay,
if that makes any sense whatsoever.
No, it does. I hear you loud and clear. So you're right. Okay, so I guess what you're saying is it's a lot closer than it might feel for a 5-game series. And so, I think that they need to upgrade a little bit here. The only thing that I don't have clear in my mind, that you're better at this with me than me anyway, is the salary structure of their team, where it ain't going to be a free agent signing as far as I can tell, unless someone, what they need is going to take, a quarter of the amount of money they're worth. So what are they going to do here?
Well, all right. So they've got some options. They could try to convince a team to take Tristan Thompson. I think Tristan Thompson is definitely available. The issue is, what do you get back? I just don't know. I don't know. He's got a big contract. Is anyone going to want to take him and give you an asset? Their salary next year is at 129 million committed right now. The cap is going to be 102, so they're already above the cap. So they're looking at mid-level exception, minimum deals, things like that. Darren Williams might come back now. I had thought that he made himself some money with his play during the season because he was pretty good. But okay. I think the way he played in the finals, he may be coming back. So, maybe they keep Darren Williams. Channing Frye will be in the last year of his deal. Maybe they move him, try to get some more pieces. Don't know if Richard Jefferson's coming back. Let's see. JR, they still got JR for 3 more years at, it'll escalate up to about 15 mil a year. So they are kind of strapped for cash. They can't really go out and just say, hey, Blake Griffin, come sign with us, right? They're going to have to make some trades. I think if anyone of the big three is going to get moved, I mean, obviously LeBron's not getting moved.
Right. I
don't think Kyrie would get moved. It would have to be some massive deal to move him, I would imagine. I think Kevin Love is the most likely to move. And, if I'm Indiana, I'm calling the Cavs tomorrow and I'm saying, hey, we know we're going to lose Paul George. Would you be willing to give up Kevin Love and do it straight up?
Okay.
Because better to get Kevin Love for him, and you have Kevin Love under contract for 2 more years. He's got a player option in 1920. So 2 years of Kevin Love instead of one kind of lame duck year of Paul George where you lose him for nothing. So
right.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting scenario because they have Miles Turner, who was a budding young big man who can play some defense down there, which would help him. And it can also stretch the floor. That would be a lot of shooting in theory for the Pacers. And the only question that brings us then is that what that forces? It forces LeBron to have to play power forward almost exclusively, and he simply has not wanted to do that, even though that's where he needed to be, and that's what we saw him do. So it might have his damage in this series. So maybe that's the last final straw they can convince him to do it, because the irony here is that Paul George is supposed to play the power forward position of the Pacers and also backed off too, didn't want to handle it. I just think that also every year that goes by that the physicality of the power forward position is probably less and less as we move along. And so it maybe by next year it won't be as big of a deal and LeBron will be willing to do it.
It's turning into another wing, essentially.
Yeah.
And what you really need there is you need a guy who, can shoot threes, can switch onto other wings, smaller wings, and not get completely roasted, can occasionally switch onto a point guard, and can rebound. And that's there's 8 guys in the league that can do that, that kind of have that positional length. So it is a premium, and if I'm if I'm the Cavs, I don't have any draft picks, I don't have any cap space. I'm going to have to do it through a trade. I've got a decision to make. Is Kevin Love going to get me over the hump or not? And I don't think that if I was running the Cavs, I wouldn't trade Kevin Love. I would bring this team back, and I would try to hit on some of these older free agent signings. Maybe you pick up like a Patrick McCaw type in the second round or something like that. Mm-hmm. Someone who can come in right away and contribute. Maybe look for some guys out of the D League, something like that. Like, imagine if the Cavs had a Jonathan Simmons. Yeah. He would have been in the rotation in the finals, and that makes a difference for them. Maybe it's a 2-2 series coming in tonight if they had a guy who could play any defense and occasionally hit a 3. So I think that's where you got to be creative. But they've got this huge issue in their front office right now. David Griffin's contract just expired. Just expired after this game. And the Cavs have actually had 4 GMs in the last 12 years. All of them have served one contract and not been re-signed. And David Griffin is a damn good GM. And, I mean, teams have already been wanting to talk to him. The Bucks wanted him. They haven't hired anyone yet. The Magic wanted him. They've already hired someone. But there's, if David Griffin's available, he's got options. He's got places to go. So, they've got to figure out that thing first. I mean, we got the draft coming up next week, and are they going to try to make a move? Maybe they try to make a move and move up in the draft to try to get a younger guy who could come in and contribute. I don't know. Their options are limited because they're a cap sheet, but I still like this team. I think that if it's me, I'm like, let me see if I can get an impact guy in the mid-level or the room exception. Try to sign some minimum guys and go that route and run it back. And, you never know. Maybe Durant gets hurt. Maybe Curry gets hurt. Maybe Draymond gets hurt, something like that. And then next thing you know, we're switching this conversation around and we're talking about the Warriors. What are they going to do this summer,
Yeah, well, a lot of things there. I would be surprised if Griffin didn't, get re-signed. But then again, they probably could have. They had all the opportunity to extend him this whole year, right? And then give him another contract. They didn't do that. So I suppose they were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen in the finals. But you're right. The guy's been hand-tied, or whatever that word is. He's been handcuffed. And he's done the best he can with a very difficult situation. I'm sure he's cost the owners quite a lot of money because they've been over the cap. But whatever, they're competing. They're going to make some of that money back. I don't know. I don't know if I would bring this group back as it is because they've lost 2 of the 3. And I don't know. The funny thing is Kevin Love seems like the natural thing they got to go. For some reason, J.R. Smith is the guy I feel like needs to go. They need to upgrade him, get somebody a little bit more steady, who can still shoot a little bit, but who can play better defense. Like a McCaw. I don't know if that's a McCaw. If he would play.
He's not ready for that.
But by the way, this was the Patrick McCaw game. We need to give him some props. He was the guy in that Phil Jackson mode. You throw in like the Bobby Hansen who comes in and hits a couple shots, plays some defense. Did really well. They had that one bogus call on him on a cross screen, and I tweeted it out, and people didn't even quite get what I was trying to say. But basically, you have a rookie in there who's unheralded and people know him. They're just going to throw him a foul for breathing on somebody. But either way, it's really been exciting to watch a guy like that, and that's the culture, and that's the player development that they have there. Here's a kid that everyone had a chance on, nobody wanted to touch, and I'm telling you, he's going to be better. I think he can be better than Iguodala ultimately.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think he's definitely the talent is there. Remember, he was a point guard in college. So, his upside as far as a playmaker and as a ball handler is much higher than what we've seen. He's got more to his game than what we've seen. You saw a little bit tonight where he was quickly making the extra pass. No hesitation. And you and I have talked about this quite a bit. I've been high on McCaw since he was drafted. And one of my issues with him was that I felt like he held the ball a beat too long, too often.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the moment felt a little too big for him. Tonight, I thought he was fantastic. I mean, he was out there making plays. He was -3 in the 12 minutes he played, but he was still making an impact. He had a huge offensive rebound, which I thought was just for a rookie, that was just an amazing play. And I love that guy.
Absolutely. And so, again, that's the kind of thing where, the Warriors are probably going to have to deal with some stuff, too, going into the offseason as well. Like, who are they going to bring back and whatever. And I think Iguodala, did you say, is he a free agent?
Iggy is a free agent. Livingston's a free agent. But I think that they're going to keep the band together because Kevin Durant has agreed essentially to take the early bird max, which basically means it's not a full max, which allows them to re-sign Iguodala and Livingston without they can re-sign Kevin Durant without renouncing those guys, basically.
Okay, and then that'll allow them. Yeah,
they have to sign Durant into cap space,
right?
So they don't have to renounce those other guys. It's tricky, but Kevin Durant basically is allowing them by signing this contract, allowing them to keep everyone. Ian Clark, I think, will be gone though.
Ian Clark will be gone. Okay, and then that is also looking forward into the future when Steph Curry needs to be re-signed to the max.
Steph Curry's getting the max this summer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, so his deal expires this summer.
That's right. He'll be getting the 5-year, $200 million or whatever, 204 or 201. The numbers aren't out yet, but once they do the audit, we'll have those numbers. So yeah, He'll be getting the 5-year max. KD will sign a 1+1, basically the early bird. And I imagine Iguodala is going to take a bit of a pay cut, but you may have some sort of inner politicking where KD says, "Well, if I'm taking a pay cut, I want these guys to get paid."
Okay.
So who knows? But tonight when I was watching Livingston, I just couldn't help but think, man, there's some teams out there that could really use a Sean Livingston. Like, imagine if the Cavaliers had Sean Livingston instead of Darren Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Or the San Antonio Spurs, or any team that could use a really good backup point guard that plays good defense and is smart. So 29 other teams besides the Warriors, right?
Right. And not only is he smart, he can post up. And it's a real anomaly for teams. And it's not like sometimes you try and go, oh, well, I got a bigger point guard against a tiny guy. We're going to post him up, but he's never done that all year long. This is the guy that can do it consistently. Is very good at that. And, he guarded LeBron a little bit. I mean, he can guard some positions, too. It really is. So do you think there's a possibility he might leave on his own volition to get more minutes somewhere?
Well, I don't think it's about minutes. But, remember, he hasn't really made a ton of money in his career. And this could wind up being, I mean, he's 31, I believe. And this could be the last kind of decent deal he's able to get. So there's a chance someone comes in and says, hey, we'll give you 11 or 12 million to come play here. Some team that, like the Nets, that just has empty cap space and could use a culture setter like a Sean Livingston, something like that. That would be a concern if I'm the Warriors. Can I hang on to him? Maybe the Timberwolves, The Timberwolves, to me, are a dark horse for Iguodala. If Iguodala is not willing to take a little bit less, I think the Timberwolves could come in and offer Iguodala something in the 14 to 15 range, just to try to get, again, a culture setter, good defender. You overpay a little bit for that when you've got space and you've got young guys. And so, yeah, they've got. I mean, the Warriors' offseason is probably going to be as climactic as their regular season was, as far as like things happening and all, a bunch of different moving parts. So
right, and also you have to imagine that the other teams, just to muck it up, are going to try and lure those guys just to get out of there. So that could do something. We got a good question on Twitter from Jake Anderson, who asks, I think that LeBron's gone after 2018. Cavs have no resources. Guessing you're in agreement. If so, where's the number one landing spot? So do you think it's possible that LeBron is going to make another decision?
I think it is possible. I mean, look, he came home. There's a big story that came out this week. His family couldn't believe that he was going to play for Dan Gilbert after the Comic Sans letter. When he was coming back, he was trying to engineer a franchise trade where the Pistons ownership and the Cavs ownership basically traded.
Oh,
did you not read about this?
No. When did that happen?
You have to check it out. It's an interesting idea, and I mean, you want to talk about a power play? That's a power play. I think he won the championship. I don't feel like. Look, I've never felt any of these players owe anyone anything. They work, they do their best, I guess. They work, they get paid, and that's it. Like, it's their job. They don't owe anyone anything. But if you feel like you're a part of a community and you owe them a championship, well, guess what? He won a championship. So if LeBron wants to leave to go to greener pastures or to extend his championship window, he'll be 33 next season. He'll turn 33 next season. So, I mean, he's going to opt out. I think that there's a chance. I mean, I look at a team like the Lakers. They'll have space. They'll be on their way up. Maybe he goes to LA. I don't know if he wants to go west, because then you gotta get through the Warriors. But maybe Miami again. Wow. I don't know. Has he burned the bridge with Pat Riley? Who knows? But I definitely don't think that it's a lock that he stays in Cleveland for the rest of his career.
Okay, that's. I mean, I guess the precedent is there, like where he's willing to do it, and if he feels like he's got a better shot somewhere else, which kind of speaks to the notion of like going to Cleveland wasn't necessarily going home; it was going to a place where he felt like he could engineer something that would get him the best chance to win, more than going home. Although I guess it was nice that he got home, but either way, I always kind of felt that way about that decision.
Maybe he signs a minimum deal with the Warriors.
Oh, wow. Hey, there's your 82-0 scenario you pitched last time. So let's go. I have another question from Brown Job over on Twitter. Hopefully it's not some sort of controversial Twitter handle. He asks, why do people hate the Dubs? With the exception of KD, they built their team from the ground up, Kerr overcoming health problems, and yet they still just hate on him. And I think it's an interesting question. What are your thoughts?
I think anytime you have a team that's this good, you know, people are going to hate on him, and for numerous reasons, right? Like some Warriors fans are smug, I guess is a good word. Some people see the Warriors as smug, you know, like you're not supposed to be happy when you succeed. And I don't know. I think it's weird. To me, they're an extremely likable team. They play a fun style. They're really good at their jobs. You know what I mean? Like I just don't have a problem with it. You can maybe give me the thing where like some of Draymond's antics could have turned the tide a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with them, but
Yeah.
I try not to think in those terms anyway.
Because I think it. Well, I mean, I get it a lot on Twitter. It's like a constant stream. I think part of it is the hate people have for Steph Curry, and a lot of times the reasons are, oh, well, he's a showboat, or he celebrates, which is, I mean, the most complete nonsense because everybody does it. James Harden has his thing. LeBron has his thing. They all have some way they celebrate or whatever. And so I honestly don't think it's that. You know, there could very well be that sort of hipster thing going on in the Bay Area. It was funny. I took a picture. I was in San Francisco yesterday, and I took a picture of a bar outside. Had a chalk drawing where it said, "LeBron doesn't drink rosé, but we do." And yet, it turns out that LeBron does drink rosé.
Sure.
You know, it was not great trash talk, but certainly high-minded and erudite, if you will. So, at any rate. It is interesting, and I think it's worth exploring maybe in a podcast later this summer a little bit more about what that hate is for Curry, because I feel like a lot it could do a lot with appearance. I feel like they'll hate on him for the defense because he doesn't look like he's a defender, so he can't possibly be a good defender.
He doesn't scowl. You know, his athleticism doesn't jump off the right. TV screen. You know, like there's all these things, and then there's some other crazy stuff. You know, coded language stuff that, you know, maybe we need to bring in a third party to talk about. But there's
right.
plenty of that, too.
Yeah.
But to me, it's definitely he probably smiles too much, I think, is one thing. And it's just the Dwight syndrome? Yeah. You know, it's crazy to think that. You know, like this guy he's a Hall of Famer, right? Steph Curry is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the 5 best point guards of all time right now, today.
Right.
He is the greatest shooter we've ever seen. He put up arguably the greatest offensive statistical season in NBA history last season. And still, people do not respect him. They think he's garbage. He was fantastic in the playoffs. He had one bad game.
Right.
Game 4. He was fantastic in the playoffs and still is getting no respect. I mean, there's an argument to be made that he was the MVP of the finals.
You know, I didn't keep my eye on the thing. I'm assuming KD got it, right?
KD won. No, okay. KD won, and rightfully so. Yeah. But I'm saying Steph Curry was right behind him. So, absolutely. You know, it's just garbage, man. I think whatever the narrative is, it's a garbage narrative.
All right. Well, hey, we got Amy, contributor, B-Ball Breakdown contributor. Amy is saying that he chews on that mouth guard. Damn, the thing disappeared. I couldn't see the whole thing, but she doesn't like the way he's choosing on the mouth guard. It is disgusting, I will say that, and you know people usually react negatively to that. But you know what? It's his little thing. You know, LeBron likes to cough in his hand and pat his chest all the time. Curry chews that mouth guard. That's what they had to soothe them, I suppose. So
look, my wife's a dentist, and that drives her nuts too. So yeah. She's right there with you,
all right,
and she loves Steph Curry.
Yeah,
I think this is one thing I will say. I think with kids and, you know, like casual fans, I think Steph Curry's approval rating is super high.
Okay.
Like he's like Neil deGrasse Tyson level like of approval. Like,
wow.
You know, does anybody not like Neil deGrasse Tyson?
No, he never answered a tweet I asked him about, so that's the only reason why I feel jilted. But okay.
But you know what I mean. I think that what it is that. And especially since so much of our NBA viewing experience is through the lens of NBA Twitter, we are a little bit more in tune with the whole the negative part of the Curry experience, where you know there are so many people that hate him or don't like him. I'm not going to say hate because I don't think anybody actually hates any of these guys, but they don't like him. There's something about him that irks them, and that could be one of those things where it's like they're exposed to him too much. You know, I mean. ESPN is covering the Warriors just like they did the Bulls back in the 90s, probably worse because, you know, now they've got, you know, 4 channels and it's 24 hours and all this stuff. So I will say that there's definitely something there where it's like you're inundated with all this stuff all the time and it's just overexposure. So that's definitely a thing. But I don't. I mean, I don't know. It just none of that stuff bothers me. I think they're a joy to watch, and I love it.
Fair enough. I hear you. I agree. Now I got a question I got from Periscope. So while I'm asking that, maybe Dave, you can grab one from YouTube or something like that. But here's the question that Aiden asks: do you feel that the Bucks could be a championship team? And I will jump into that, I guess, because I think absolutely. I feel like the injury bug they had to Middleton in the middle of the year really hurt them. And Middleton came back and then Parker went down again. And if they could get that healthy and playing for a full season and maybe grab one more player to kind of complement that, everyone else, like a solid NBA player, I have no doubt that they are going to compete with Cleveland if they keep that team together. I think that they can offer a lot against them, especially because Giannis is a guy who they kept, the way it matches up, LeBron has to guard him. And that's exciting to me because here's a guy that hasn't really had to deal with that. I mean, he had to deal with it in the finals for probably the first time we've really seen him have to struggle defensively. And I think that Giannis could do that and more because he's younger and he's got more energy even than KD. And in fact, the argument could be that Giannis is KD 2.0, and as soon as he develops like a 37% three-point shot, which I think is definitely possible, then he could eclipse KD. I think that's certainly it's on the table.
Yeah, well, you and I talked about this during the Raptors series when I boldly predicted that the Bucks were going to win in 5. I don't know how bold it was, pretty dumb, but we both thought that the Bucks the way that they were playing, that would actually be kind of a tough matchup for the Cavs because of how long they are, and we looked at them sort of like it's like a non-shooting version of the Warriors, but with more length, and what they were doing defensively was just, it was incredible. Getting into the playoffs, experience matters a little bit, and having a guy that can get you a bucket the way like DeMar DeRozan can. Well, the Bucks don't have that guy, so needless to say, they weren't ready. But yeah, I definitely think they're 3 years away, let's say 2 or 3 years away from being real competitors. But I think next year they might make the little mini leap into the top half of the East.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a mini leap, and yeah, it's certainly top 4 should be their destiny. And who knows, if they pull something else off in the offseason that really upgrades them somewhere, then it's higher. So I'm excited. What do you say as we start to wrap this up? Do you have a good YouTube one?
I got a question from YouTube from user Zetsword.
Yes.
He asked, who is the closest to winning a championship besides Cleveland and Golden State? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Is it the Spurs? Is it the Rockets? Is it the? I mean, because here's the thing: the Spurs feel like they could have beaten, if they were healthy, they could have beaten the Cavs. It kind of felt that way. They certainly seemed that way. The Rockets, I kind of felt like as a fluky, weird matchup thing because of the transition is so good that they could have beaten. They really could have hurt the Cavs. But other than that, is there anybody in the East? I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
I don't think there's anyone in the East yet. Let's see what the Celtics look like when they get Markelle Fultz.
Right, and the Bucks.
And see if that unlocks some new things. Let's see what the Bucks look like next year. Let's see if Jabari Parker comes back healthy. I think Jabari Parker would have been a difference maker for the Bucks in that Raptors series. For sure. I'm with you. I think the Spurs are right there. They're going to have an interesting summer. This summer is going to be so much fun. Because there's so many different moving parts, and there's some teams are going to be on their way down. Where there's a lot of teams that have a chance to go up. So, and I think the Rockets are behind the Cavs, but it's the Warriors, the Spurs, and the Cavs for sure in that upper echelon.
For sure. And thank God we got these competitive games because I was a little bit worried the Cavs, had they continued to get blown out and they kind of fizzled, it would have really felt like that this is it. They really need to do something major to break that up. So I do want to shout out always. It says that NJ got swept without Pippen, and I don't know, just kind of grabbed me and was able to grab it. The youngins out there, just so you understand, in the very beginning of NJ's career, it wasn't a very good team, and the team that swept him in the first round, it was first of all a 5-game series, so it was a 3-game sweep. It was the Celtics. the greatest team short of the 95-96 Bulls and then now maybe the Warriors of this year or last year. That's how good that team was. So let's not pretend like he needed Pippen or whatever like to get a game. They got destroyed by one of the greatest teams of all time, and he had like Dave Corzine starting at center. So it's not like, that meant anything. So just pump the brakes on that whole early Jordan career thing that just kind of frustrates me. I keep seeing that. But any other questions you have as we wrap up?
No, I think we're good, man. I think that this was a good pod.
Yeah, absolutely. We covered a lot of ground. It's been a long season. We've done 35 of these, I think. This is our 35th one,
wow.
Which is crazy. And every week they keep getting better and better and bigger, and we can't thank you guys enough for joining us on this journey. And hey, this doesn't end. We're going to be doing podcasts, and this is when the podcasting really explodes, because we have all the stuff to cover on free agency and the draft and summer league, and we'll be out in summer league together, so we'll do some pods together. I'm looking forward to. We're going to be more busy than most any other outfit, I think.
Yeah, most likely. And if you guys like the salary cap talk, this is what the summer is all about, because the little mini cap spike that's coming, the new CBA and all this stuff, that's going to be, this is where we're really going to see all that stuff come to fruition, starting with free agency.
Yeah.
So
can you do a 10-second shout out to Larry's thing that you're doing in Vegas?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be going to Larry Kuhn's. I'll be a part of the sports business classroom at NBA Summer League, and Larry Kuhn, who is the what do we call him? The salary cap guru expert. He is the guy, and that's my salary cap mentor. He, Eric Pincus, and Nate Duncan. They're my salary cap mentors. So I'll be working with them again this summer at Sports Business Classroom at Summer League, and so hopefully I have I expand my knowledge on this stuff this summer, but I feel like I got a decent grasp on it, and so hopefully we'll have a lot to talk about. I'm really excited for free agency.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks, Dave, for joining me on this crazy, great season. We really, it was great to be with you every week on this podcast, and thank you all for coming and joining us on these post-game shows and the podcast and on the videos, which has been exploding every week. It gets bigger. And thanks for everything. I can't wait to keep it up over the summer, and let's do it here. Don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.